Hi, this is Steve Mathers here to present our annual review for butterflies for 2023, or as I've called it this year, the new normal. So it's 2023, it's been a record year for records. I haven't yet got the big butterfly count data, and I may not get that till the spring, but for all other records, it's been a record year. We've had 20,000 records in all, and these are the quality records that come in from regular observers, from transects. This is the quality data, and we've got more of it than ever. Unfortunately, I've had to reject this year about 1,500 records, though, and this means we're losing data. The problem is this, that many people are recording butterflies on phones, on apps, which are not properly fully integrated with the systems of iRecord and butterfly conservation. And as a result of this, many of the grid references that are coming through from these systems are so general that we can't really use them. For the third year running, we've had the same 32 species recorded in the county. The weather in 2023, well, to use a few well-worn adjectives, it's been changeable, at times extreme, and certainly quite unpredictable. So is this the new normal? I mean, we had a dry winter. March was twice the normal rainfall. April was quite cold. May, fairly normal May perhaps. June was really hot. July was sunshine and showers, a bit like April used to be actually. Went through August, was not a bad month, some rain, plenty of sun. September then was the warmest ever on record, and got the scientists all talking again about the global warming. And then as we went through into October, it almost got even hotter for the first 10 days of October because an unseasonably high temperature system had developed over Europe. So against this background of unpredictable and changeable weather, our butterflies are all trying to go about business as usual. And they're expecting, a normal British season. That's what they've evolved and developed to cope with. And also the plants they depend on are also expecting a similar sort of predictable or usual weather condition. Now, bear in mind that our tiny little butterflies are trying to go through complex life cycles with 4 stages, from the adult to eggs, to caterpillars to pupa, and then back to adults. And some of them are trying to do that several times in the season against a background of weather that they, nobody knows what's happening. Staying up with weather, though, we've also worried over the winter that because there was a heat wave again last July, August, some of our species performed very badly. The late summer brood of certain species was tiny last year. We were worried that there would be low numbers of overwintering adults in the case of certain species, or that the early stages of others that overwinter as a pupa or a caterpillar, that they have been so decimated last summer that we weren't going to see many adults emerge this year. Now, 2 cases in point are the small tortoiseshell. We had 458 records of this in 2023. This is down from 1,020 last year. That's a massive decline. Now, I know that the small tortoiseshell is in decline anyway in southern England, and that may just start to be happening here. But the crash in numbers really suggests that there is also a strong component of very few hibernating individuals over winter, and then very little breeding early in this spring when they emerged. So the small tortoiseshell is a cause for concern, certainly. Similarly, the purple emperor, we've only just had it established across the county in recent years. We had only 17 records of adults flying in 2023 against 51 in 2022. We know through observation that many of the eggs and larvae suffered very badly in August, September last year, and few of them survived to overwinter. Another possible effect of the extreme temperatures is that aberrations and variants appeared to be more common than usual. And this is a pattern that's not just been noticed here in the East Midlands. Exactly the same point has been made by some of the recorders in the West Midlands as well. And these aberrants and variants may be a possible result of the heat stress and the difficulty in going through a life cycle normally. So we've got some nice pictures here, an Essex skipper from Mark Searle, a very strange looking small copper, white and black rather than the usual orange and black, pictured by Richard Shaw at Calverton. And we've had one or two reports also of the more familiar Valacina form of silver-washed fritillary. So what, after all the doom and gloom, what has actually gone right in 2023? Well, the Red Admiral, I think, as we all know, has had a stupendous year. We've had over 1,800 records. That's up from 641 last year. So that's nearly treble the amount of sightings of Red Admiral. And it started off as a fairly normal year. The overwintering adults, most of them died off by the end of February. But there was then a massive migrant influx from May through to July. And it was actually the most commonly recorded species in the big butterfly count, which takes place in late July to early August. In late August, one day, a recorder counted 310 Red Admirals in the Idle Valley near Retford. And throughout late August, September, people who went to try and see the reverse migration of the Red Admirals on high points would easily be logging 80 to 100 individuals streaming through, hilltopping in a couple of hours. They would be flying south and southeast to start their reverse migration. At the same time, we started seeing Red Admirals coming into Britain on the east coast. Rather than flying out to the continent to go south, it appears that certain waves of probably North European individuals were using Britain as a flyway to move south, or even with the intent of coming to Britain and then overwintering here. Red Admiral, I should say, is now a recognised resident species, but it is only still a small percentage of the total population that overwinter and successfully breed in Britain, and the majority of those do so in the south of England. Another species that did very well in 2023 was the brown Argus, with 240 records, up from 136. Speckled wood was our most recorded species of all. Brimstone, despite the worries about small tortoiseshell hibernating and emerging, the brimstone seemed to emerge very strongly. So that was good news. In the grassland species, meadow brown and gatekeeper did particularly well, but in contrast, ringlet, which has similar host plants and flies at a similar time of year, did comparatively poorly. And I don't think we quite understand why that is. An interesting species is the large tortoiseshell. It's a former Notts resident, particularly prevalent in the Sherwood Forest area until about 1916. It's many years since we've had records of large tortoiseshell. I think the last previous one was 20 years ago. But we've had 3 widely spread records in 2023. Now, is this our old friends in the buy it, breed it, release it brigade at work? Or do we think that 3 widely spread records is rather a lot for people to observe, you know, following a bit of work by somebody who is trying to reintroduce the species? I will say that these 3 records are by the most reputable and experienced of recorders, and in some cases supported by photographs. The large tortoiseshell is noticeably larger than the small, has a different pattern of spots on the forewing, and in recent years it's seen a massive expansion across the North Sea and the Low Countries, and also in South and East England. So we need to keep an open mind about these sightings of large tortoiseshell. And it's going to be, going forward, important to be vigilant, especially in suitable habitats such as woodland with elms, to see if we can record any further individuals of this species in 2024. I know it's you're in Derby and it's probably cold and raining outside. I hope not, but that is the most likely possibility. So I thought I'd just mention Corfu butterfly conservation by way of a change. A couple of us from the branch have been out there to record butterflies in the last year, 18 months. It's a small island, many of you will have been. It's off the coast of northwest Greece, at the bottom of the Adriatic. Nearly 80 species recorded on this small island. And when I say small, it's far smaller than Knots. And we've got 32 species. So that gives you an idea of the diversity of butterflies. There is a very well organized recording infrastructure and website, which is part of the European Butterfly Group, and it's all hooked into butterfly conservation. And basically, if any of you are planning a trip there and want to help and record some butterflies, contact me for information on the website address and more details. And if some of you are looking for a nice destination for a holiday, you know, you can see the blue sea and the blue sky. It isn't all blue sea and blue sky, but it is most of the time in the summer. So if you want any more information on that, just send me an email and I'll provide it. In terms, most of you know that I'm a fairly keen moth recorder. So this year, the records coming in through our Facebook group have shown that certain species have done remarkably well compared to previous years. The Duix Pelusia, this one here, top left, has got a silver coloured flash on its side, slightly different in shape to the silver Y, which is not totally unsimilar. But this has been turning up now in the East Midlands in significant numbers. So it's clearly changing its distribution. This rather less impressive little chappy here, this orange-brown thing, is the Rannoch looper. Now, the name Rannoch may give the game away. This guy normally lives up on Rannoch Moor and surrounding areas in the Highland of Scotland. But this year he's been taking his holidays down the east coast of England and turning up several times in moth traps in Knots. Moving down here to this little chap, this is the Vestal, this cream-coloured tiny moth with this crimson streak across its wing. This is a migrant, and again, it has started turning up in big numbers in knots, whereas it was hardly ever recorded before. Perhaps the most widespread moth that's moving into knots, though, is the blue underwing, also known as the Clifton nonpareil. This is one of the biggest moths you will ever see in Britain. It's only been seen in knots since 2019, and up to the start of this year, only a handful of us lucky observers had ever seen one here. But this year, many of our recorders have actually turned it up in their traps. And it's quite a sight when you see the size of it and see it for the first time. Another thing I've been working on myself is the hornet moth. There's only previously 9 known colonies of this species in the whole of the East Midlands. The early stages of the moth bore into the bole or the root of poplars, and then emerge. And these colonies are quite interesting because, as I say, there are very few in the East Midlands, but we've now managed to discover at least another 2 or 3 new ones in South Notts. I've put an article on one of these at the British Geological Survey on the East Midlands Butterfly Conservation website, and also we've written a blog on the BGS webpage as well. So I'm going to be following up the discovery of these colonies and trying to prove that in some cases they are still extant in 2024. Our friend the box tree moth continues to spread. As many of you now realise, its caterpillars are a real pest. So when all the box hedges have gone, it might well start on the Cotoneaster next, because there's been several studies done to see if it'll eat other things. There's the light form and the dark form of this moth, and whereas it had been turning up in previous years in small numbers at light traps, 1 or 2 a night, it's been turning up in tens and sometimes even hundreds of individuals in a single trap in a night. So this box tree moth is really going mad. So that's another thing to watch with interest for the future. So thank you for listening. I hope you have a pleasant meeting over in Derby, and that's all from me for this year.